Hi, Team Flyer. Welcome here to another beautiful Wednesday here at the Always Believer podcast. I'm very happy to present today Miss Tania Lopez, proud Latina with an amazing company and brand and summit and everything that she's building for our Latina community power and art. So I'm very excited to have her on. We're collaborating on huge things coming up really soon that she's going to tell us all about. So without further ado, hi Tania. Hola, hello.
Hola, how you guys doing?
We're
I hope
good.
everyone's good.
Good. How are you?
Well, starting the week off. Let's do
Let's do
it.
this thing. Okay. So tell us, Tania, tell us a little bit of what you do, please.
So I am a visual artist and I reside in North Carolina. So most of my art kind of evolves or revolves around Puerto Rico. I'm Puerto Rican. I was born over there, raised the majority of my life in the Bronx, but my art is my way of feeling nostalgic for my island. And so here in the South, there's a lot of Puerto Ricans because there's always Puerto Ricans around, right? But
Yep, I agree.
we're there, but we tend to be a little bit in hiding until all of a sudden we come out. We're like, whoa, we have this many Puerto Ricans here.
Yeah, and you come out when it's a whole party. You're definitely
Yeah,
you're
everybody
full of
comes
life.
out. Absolutely. And so that's how I do my art. Now I do other works, but that's usually what I stick to. I try to have some kind of education in my more complex artworks, whether it's slavery in Puerto Rico or Taino stuff. So I just try to add a little bit of history into my artwork. And it's just my way of connecting back to home.
I love that so much. I love it because yes, we're of course Latin, so we're fun, we're loud, we're vibrant.
Mm-hmm.
And what I love about you is that you have art with a message, and I feel like it's super important because when you have a platform, whatever amount, size, whoever your audience is,
Mm-hmm.
the message, like take advantage that there's a message, there's a legacy, and that's what makes your artwork so unique and special and
Thank,
important. Like it's
thank you.
important to pass it
Yeah.
on as well, for people to understand what's going on.
Right. Well, and I think sometimes we get caught up in which there's nothing wrong. I do it myself. We get caught up in the symbols of our cultures, right? And
Mm-hmm.
because we're trying to make a living as well as artists. So we go ahead and we do those pieces that involve those items that are key. The Taino symbols for Puerto Ricans, or if you're from Mexico, you might do a Frida piece, or little things like that that are iconic. But then sometimes we have to come back and think of what is my art for? And so you always create that piece, or you squeeze that piece in where it actually has a message in it, and it's trying to collect that balance a little bit.
Exactly. Love it. So tell us, you already told us you're from Puerto Rico. So tell us a little bit more
Uh-huh.
about your backstory, please.
As far as Puerto Rico goes,
Yeah, it's Puerto
uh,
Rico and live in the Bronx and just moving on
yeah,
over to the
so
States.
I was, like I said, I was born in Puerto Rico. I was raised while I was over there with my grandmother. And so sometimes I kind of feel out of sorts because we moved to the Bronx when I was 9. And so I kind of was stuck in the middle for a little bit, right? I was the new kid in the Bronx. I didn't know English except with water, please, and thank you. And and so it was hard for me to be able to connect with other children, right? Even though in New York you have classes that are like the monolinguals and all that stuff, they have more availabilities for Spanish speaking students. It was still different. The culture, it was a big culture shock. Um, I was there till I was 17 or 18, whatever. And I think just when I was getting used to the Bronx and really loving the Bronx. And then now I'm like a nomad. I've been everywhere. But that kind of also affects my sense of identity, right? I miss the island. I love the island, but people sometimes ask me questions and I'm like, well, I wasn't an adult in the island, so I can't tell you that, right?
Oh,
You
I totally
know, I,
understand
yeah, I
you.
don't know. I can't tell you where this place and that place was because I was a child in Puerto Rico. I remember
Exactly.
playing in the backyard and making mud pies, So,
Like that's what I remember.
yeah,
Do
that's
you
what I
remember?
did. That's what I did.
I understand you because I was born in Venezuela. And I was there just when I was a child. Like I was only 2, 3 years old, and I visited. So then we moved to Miami, and I remember visiting. But like as an adult, I get this exact same thing. It's like, oh, do you remember like this or this store or like in
Mhm,
this restaurant, and like they had the
mhm.
best like arepas and stuff. I'm like,
Nope.
no.
Nope.
I just remember starting to walk in this country. That's all I remember.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny because then you wonder where do you actually belong, sometimes,
Yes.
because
Yes.
even New Yorkers are completely, they're like a breed of their own, and to a
Love it.
most, yeah, New Yorkers are a breed of their own, and so I can relate to them. Obviously, I can tell them more about the Bronx than I can tell you about Puerto Rico, but now I'm here in North Carolina and I'm kind of in the same place again, right? I've been living here for a while now and I still don't quite feel like I belong, because no matter who I talk to, they automatically can spot I'm from New York somehow. I don't know how, but oh, are you a Yankee? What? What do you mean? The only Yankees I know are baseball players. What are you talking
Exactly.
about? you know, but so it's like, okay, now I have to get acclimated to this culture, which is completely different from New York. And so I'm like, my being is just eclectic. It's just one big bunch of different things I've collected through life. But you know what? We'll make it do. And I'll use my art to figure out exactly
And that's something else that
what
I appreciate as well when it comes to your art, because that's your way of expressing it. It can come through writing, it comes through videos, it can come through whatever. But as an artist, it's literally coming through art
hmm
in your particular case, and you're
yeah.
letting it flow, because that's you and me have that in common. Like I grew up here, and then I was born there, grew up here in the States, and then I moved to Europe, especially Spain. And then all of a sudden from last summer 2019 in this particular case, we moved back. So I was like, where are you from? Well, from everywhere. Like it
hmm
depends where
yeah.
you can't really point me anywhere, because like it's a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
Yeah. But do you identify from Venezuela? Like, is that really like when you're like, well, this is what I am?
No, I always say I'm from the world. I love being Latin. I also appreciate um the upbringing from here. And Spain is a whole different animal. Like I always say, it's a whole different kind of adventure. And I
I'm
know
hating
that
on you on that one. I am hating on that one. I need to go to Spain at some point.
Spain is it's a whole different world out there, without a doubt. Europe is, better said. I mean, I do miss Europe, for example. Like I know we had really amazing reasons to move back here, and we are appreciating and we're loving it. It's just that within Europe, you can travel, you can see so many different cultures at the same time. So that's a whole different upbringing. And that's why it's like, I'm never going to deny that I'm Latin by any means whatsoever, even though for me, it's like, oh, you can tell I'm Latin because the way I look physically, because obviously I
hmm
don't look like from anywhere else but Latin America.
Yeah.
But not even my accent in Spanish. Like he would talk to me and in Spanish. And for people in Spain, I'm from Latin America. But for people from Latin America, I'm Spanish because I have all the vocabulary, I have all the accent, and I'm like,
Absolutely. That
you
is the
know.
same way for me. Like, it's so funny to me because when I speak Spanish, it's like, okay, I apologize in advance because you have to understand my Spanish is at a fourth grade level, man. And so I have an accent when I'm speaking Spanish. I have an accent of Latino when I speak English. So I'm all the way screwed up, but I'm like the jack of all trades, but master of none, one of those things.
Exactly. Like that's the beauty behind it. I love the fact that we're able to be bilingual with those any two languages and more, obviously. But I
hmm
love having that vibe. And then recently, because I've moved here, so I've been talking to a lot of my friends in Spain in Spanish, obviously. And a lot of my Latin American vocabulary is coming out. And they're like, where'd you get that from? And I'm like, I don't know. It flows naturally. There's
hmm
something in my brain back there saying, hi.
I'm here.
Like knock knock knock, vocabulary from Venezuela coming right up. You know?
Hey, that's fun.
And Yeah, so definitely understand you there. Thank you for telling us a little bit. And I'll circle back to Bronx a little bit later, but let me continue to my next
Okay.
question, which is you wrote also a blog post for us, which is really meaningful as well. It has a message of its own, a little bit introduction about yourself and what we're doing. That's what we're going to talk about. And you also
Mm-hmm.
talk about, women's world. So how did you feel about a woman's world growing up,
A
particularly for you?
woman's world growing up. So, okay, I understand that you were not raised in your country, but the culture is still there. And when it comes to Latinos, I think everybody has a picture of what it is to be a Latina woman, right? If you're from Latin America, you're supposed to be this submissive woman. If you're Puerto Rican or Cuban, you're supposed to be spicy and sexualized and all this stuff, whatever. um those the stereotypes, right?
Okay.
And so I feel like I kind of grew up in two different worlds. When you meet my grandmother, she is very soft spoken. I mean, don't underestimate her, but she's very soft spoken, a homemaker, for most of her life. She still knew how to hustle, she sewed and stuff like that, but her priority was the family. And my mother, being a child, rebelled from that, right? We tend to rebel from our mothers. And so she rebelled from that, and that's why she moved to the Bronx. She moved to the Bronx when she was 18. uh and she knew she wanted a career for herself, and so that's what she set out to do, which she accomplished. She worked for IBM and a couple of other companies, and so she made it for herself. She got herself out of the Bronx and moved down here, owned her house. Um, and so she's a very accomplished woman, which also meant we barely saw her. Okay. I have never known my mother not to go to school. Matter of fact, even now, she's back in school.
Wow.
Yes, she's back in school. She's
That
going for
says a
her
lot.
teaching. Yeah, she's doing a career change and she's going to teach. So that's my mother. She's very and what's the word? She's a go-getter, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what she does. Now she's married, and she's been married for 20 years. I think they just made. And so she still has that family mentality, except she goes about it a different way. She's a very strong, independent woman who always told me, you should not depend on a man for anything. And so to
Dang right.
me, here I am, I'm growing up. I'm like, okay, where do I find a balance in this? Because I don't want to be a homemaker, right? It's just not me. I'm just not, it's not me. And at the same time, I don't want to be absolutely consumed by my career. And I've been a nurse for 13 years. I've done the whole 9 to 5 thing. I know that to me, that's not life for me.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be able to find a balance. And so I feel that being a woman means this. Number one, we have to take care of ourselves first. And I know this goes against a lot of the things that we're taught. We're taught to take care of our family. Well, guess what? I cannot take care of my family if I don't take care of myself. Mental wise, I just can't. And so I feel that we have to take care of ourselves first, whether it's our career or our hobby or our physical being, whatever it may be. I feel that although we are raising our children, I feel that we need to have a purpose. Whether it's in the community, maybe it's a movement that you feel passionate about, maybe it's a political view. We need to have a purpose for ourselves. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Because in essence, we're teaching our kids that regardless, our kids, they're going to get upset no matter what. At some point later on in life, they're going to say, well, mom, you didn't do enough of this. That's automatically a given. So that's fine. So why not go ahead, work towards something I'm passionate about? And my kids may look at that and they might not agree with what I'm passionate about, but they know exactly the things that I did to get to that point. And so I think that message there is a lot more valuable
It
than
is indeed.
anything else I can teach them. And so I think that's what being a woman is, being multifaceted. I think that's the word for us.
Oh, I adore that word for this particular case, without a doubt. Yep, definitely.
That's how I
And
think that's
and
the word.
and you summed it up pretty well, because you did say like our different kind of cultures background, from Latin
Mm-hmm.
America, what we're supposed to be doing, what we should have been doing. And the
Mm-hmm.
contrast between your grandmother and your mom itself is just a huge, opposites,
They
completely
are in a different
opposite.
part of the spectrum. Yes, absolutely.
And the most beautiful thing is what you said right at the end, of course, summarizes the balance. I feel like balance is needed with everything in life, and that's what you are trying to find and what you have found your way through. Loving yourself and taking care of yourself, definitely, with that statement of you do have to do you first.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
leaving a message, leaving that legacy, leaving something, for our kids, not only because they're your kids, but they're the kids of the world. Like, it sounds very like cliche and all that stuff, but it's true.
Yeah, but it's the
Like,
truth.
it's the freaking truth.
Yeah,
Like,
it's the truth. Mm-hmm.
it doesn't get any more simpler than that.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. I think we are taught this whole love hate thing about doing things, especially when it comes to the opposite sex. It's like you can't depend on a man. A man is gonna do this. I mean,
Mhm.
that's a whole different topic.
That is, yep.
A
Because
whole different topic. But at this point, I think a woman needs to go ahead and do what she has to do, what she feels her purpose is in life, whether or not she's in a relationship. I don't think being in a relationship should affect that. It's either the person is there to support you and stand behind you, or, if you're going to get in the way, buddy.
there you go, buddy.
Hmm.
Also, it doesn't get any more simpler than that.
No, but, hey, like I said, it's a
Exactly.
whole different topic.
It's a whole different topic. Talking about a little bit of that topic, I know,
Oh.
because of what you wrote as well and what we have on blog posts, you said you were a little
Mm-hmm.
frustrated with the Latin community
Yes.
to some extent.
Community.
Like, this could be a longer topic, but
Mm-hmm.
tell us a little bit about that so we
The
can get your
community.
perspective.
I have this conversation often, and it's fun to see the different views. And I actually had a conversation not too long ago with someone, and he said that it's more about the mentality that we were brought up. Okay, in our community, I feel the Latino community, and I'm gonna specify. I'm gonna actually pinpoint it a little further because I think it's more of the Latino Caribbean community. So Puerto Rico, Cuba, and Dominican Republic, right? Simply because, like my friend said, we have a colonized mentality. And I liked when he said this because it actually resonated with what I had told you. We, I feel, are taught to make it happen, right? We have to hustle, we have to make a living, we have to prove to the world that we can succeed. But we tend to forget about our community and where we fit in that community. Because as an individual, we cannot succeed without that community. And so, you know, if you have a business and you're trying to sell a product, you need that community. That community is the one essentially that's going to be buying from you, right? But we can't expect for these people to support us if we are not actually involved in the community. And I think it's a very selfish thing to do, and we seem to forget that. I feel that we need to feed the community before we ask from the community. And living here in the South, I feel that we're missing that. We are missing that camaraderie, that communal mentality. Let me help this person, whether or not I receive anything in return, because it's gonna come back to me anyways. But let me go
Mm-hmm.
ahead and help the community. So if I'm an artist, let me look around. What's my arts community like? My Latino community, we're lacking. We're normally categorized as folk art, which by no means are we folk artists. That has a whole different definition. When it comes to women, I look around, our women, I do a lot of vendor shows. I see a lot of women going out there and trying to hustle, and I see them struggling. Why? You know, why? You sell bows, you sell ponchos, you sell this. Okay, you know what? Let's go ahead and spread the love. Let's get together. Let's network. I might know someone that could help you. You might know someone that could help me. And that's the way that we need to do it. And that's the mentality that I think we should be on. Not just to be there all proud when tragedy strikes, because as you guys may know, Puerto Rico is like right now, back to back, right? Tragedy, tragedy, tragedy. That's not the only time we should be there for each other, you know? And then when I look around and I'm like, okay, we have the Latino American, South American community here. We got the Puerto Ricans over here. We have Dominicans over there. And I'm like, guess what, people? When it comes to the Americans, they don't care where you're from. If you're from Mexico or over there from a little island, we're still Latinos to them. We are going to be put in one umbrella. So why not go ahead and combine all those efforts, combine all those resources, and stand together to be able to do the community. So that's, and I think I kind of steered off a little bit, but that's basically my goal. My goal is, okay, here we are. Do I represent a Latina or a Hispanic, whichever word you may identify? I'll claim both. And what can we do to prosper, all of us together? Otherwise, we're just going to be one little person here, one person there, trying to go ahead and get all this stuff done and go absolutely nowhere.
I loved that statement and that message and that reality, without a doubt. It doesn't matter. You rambled with purpose. You rambled on with meaning, girl. That's exactly what you just did. Because, yeah, like you stirred a little bit, but like you circled back down to that message, to that community, because it's so important. And as someone, of course, from the Latin community myself, everything that I've been doing as an individual, I've been just trying to help. And it doesn't matter if it's just the Latin American community or just women helping women or people who just like me, just helping others. Hence why I'm doing a podcast like this one. Hence why I'm trying to reach stories from all different aspects of the world, and not only from a specific genre or gender or whatever.
Correct.
So because of the community, because we have to all help each other. And I love what you said as well, that like we should help each other not only in time of need, which is obviously important, but also in times of happiness, of joy, the stuff that we're gonna be talking shortly about the summit and whatnot. It's just getting all that network, because one of the best things that I've done with this is like, oh, I know someone here, let me help you out. Like, oh, they know someone, and there you go. And that's once again what you said, we're under, in this particular case, one umbrella. Why not help each other just rise up from that?
Right.
So love it. We're gonna go back to, again, your little story. We're gonna keep going back and forth as always.
Okay.
You had a Latin dance studio.
I did.
And then that also made you realize something, and you had like a big change, and you stepped out of your comfort zone. And tell us about that, my darling.
The Latin dance community, yes. I came out of it very frustrated, and I still have a lot of negative emotions that I'm working with, okay? But overall, this is what I learned. I'm in a community right now that is very transient. It's what we call a military town, right? So our people are always coming and going. But you have that handful of people that have made Fayetteville, is where I'm at, their home. And one of the things that I've noticed, which is very frustrating, is, well, we need this here. Let's make this happen because we need this. Okay, you know what? I'm pumped, right? I'm pumped. Let's do it.
Go for it.
Let's do it, right? And it doesn't work. And I see people that they try to go to other neighboring towns because I notice just because it's easier. Okay, they rather drive 2-3 hours because the community is already established there, than support the ones at home that, well, you know what, for tonight or maybe for a few months, it might be a little boring because we still need to prove that consistency, right? And so I came out a little frustrated from that experience. I was in the dance scene for 5-7 years, somewhere around there. But the studio itself, we had it open for a year, and we had the dance team prior to that for about 3 years. So it was tough. It was tough just trying to rally everyone up and kind of get excited over it. And I just kind of got frustrated because I have very little patience when it comes to people saying, well, I need this, we need this, and then you give it to them and they just kind of, how you say it, lo desprecia, like,
Oh yeah, they don't appreciate it.
yeah, they don't
Exactly.
appreciate it, they take it for granted, they just kind of toss it to the
Exactly.
side. And so I had to withdraw for a moment. And I withdrew not just from the Latin dance community, but I withdrew from the community in its entirety because I felt my energy was just being sucked out of me and I didn't have any more to give. And so I went into my little cocoon, and that's when I really said, well, I need to go back to my art, because art, I don't need anybody else. I need a partner to dance salsa and bachata, well, the way that I want to dance it, but I don't need, I don't need it for my canvas. And so I poured all of my energy on my canvas. And I think it's been, well, it's a year. I did that for a year. And I said, you know what? I need to just go ahead and I need to do this. And then I got lonely, because I realized, you know what? We do need a tribe.
We do. We
We are not
do.
meant, we are not meant to be loners. We're pack species. And so I'm like, all right, well, let me step out of my comfort zone. And at this point, I don't know if you've ever experienced it, but when you actually become an introvert and you push everyone away, and now all of a sudden I don't have too many friends that have things in common, it's very hard for you to put yourself back out in the world, because you
Mm-hmm.
realize now that you may not have that much in common with those people anymore. So now it's time to meet new people that share the same interests. And I said, well, let me do vendor shows. Why? Because I can go out there and meet people and socialize with people, but I don't have to open up that much yet, right? And so I started doing vendor shows, and then I started meeting other empresarias, so other women, some men too,
Entrepreneurs.
yeah, some other vendors and stuff like that, but mainly women. It just tends to be like that. And I'm meeting them, and they all have the same feelings that I do, which is, well, yeah, I've been doing this for a while, but the community here is tough. you know it's a lot of Spanish people. I'll say it's a stereotype, but I think it's true. Spanish people tend to be a little cheap. And
Mm-hmm.
so
Yeah.
everything and
Yeah.
so it's always trying to hustle someone, right? Oh, can I get it for cheaper? Well, if I buy this, well, so and so selling it cheaper. Okay, all of this stuff. And so I'm meeting all of this, hearing all of this from the other vendors. And I realized, well, you know what? I need to work on this. I need to work on the community, because I don't know how long I'm going to be in Fayetteville. Um, but I also think that we have, it's a possibility for us to burn out our resources here. And so I decided, well, you know what? If we have about 10 vendors or 10 women here in Fayetteville, and then we have another 10 over there in the mountains that like to travel, and then we have 2 over there, then why not go ahead and build that community together? Distance is not the problem, because honestly, I've gotten support from people on the other side of the country. But when you create that community, you feel like, you know what? I got this. You share ideas. You sometimes you even learn your passion again, just because I had a conversation with this vendor next to me, and she gave me a boost. Oh yeah, you know what? That's a great idea. And so I went out there and I stepped out of my comfort zone. I have met so many wonderful people, including yourself, on social
Thank
media.
you.
And that's just the way to go about it. And now I just feel like, you know what? We need to go stronger. And that's how the MP Summit, or the Mujer Poderosa Summit, has come about.
Which is an incredible journey without a doubt, because of after everything that you've overcome and talking about the community and all the frustrating parts, you took what everyone had in common and kind of build it and put it together towards one. I agree with what you're saying. I feel like, of course, everyone needs a tribe. Everybody, like, we're a pack without a
We
doubt.
are a pack species.
And even though the online world is great and we love it and we prosper from it and it's incredible, there's something equally as powerful as that face-to-face
Human
interaction,
connection.
as that human connection that we all need. Because
Yeah.
as an entrepreneur myself, and I do a lot of stuff online via screen, via whatever, it does get lonely. Like at the end of the day, it's you in your room and you in your office or you in whatever, and the fact that you're able to create mujeres o mujer
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 Poderosa.
Poderosa, powerful woman for those who don't know Spanish. The summit and this community and actually see all that come to life, because that's also very beautiful. Like, don't get me wrong, it's beautiful artwork online, but the fact that you walk into a room and
Yeah.
see all those creations, like, that just makes it more magical, of course. And then at the end of the day, it's also going to be more networking and benefit for everybody and just a feeling of unity without a doubt.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what you're doing. So what do you do now? Apart from before we get directly to the MP Summit, is that your main focus? You're an artist. What more do you know?
My main focus is always going to be my art and establishing myself as an artist. So that will always take precedent. A little selfishness, but it's okay. And then the MP Summit, I'm putting energy to it. It's a lot of growing pains because it's the first one. So obviously it's going to require a lot more energy, and hopefully it'll be easier as the years go by or as the time goes by. But no, this is what I do. That's it.
There you go.
That's it.
You have like the message, because Puerto Rico, of course, you have that son. I think that's the word that you use.
Art is son.
Exactly. What's that name? Tell us a little bit about your name then.
Son. I always have to describe it, and it's very hard to describe because it's more of a feeling than anything else. For those that are dancers, son is like, how do I put it? It's a style of dancing. It's like a flavor. It's the best way to put it. And I think in order for people to get it, I think everyone has heard, or every Latino has heard of sazon. Okay, it's the same thing. You add that flavor into it. Latino culture, doesn't matter what you do, whether it's cooking, dancing, art, writing, whatever it may be, it has a flavor like no other. Like no other.
110% agree to exactly what you
It's
said. That
just
son, that flavor, that vibe, that
son. Yes,
because
it's a
you're
feeling.
art and son, and it's that what I love, and that like vibrant energy basically. And you're right, anything we do, we add our little touch to it.
Everything. We got to put our foot in it and just
Exactly. Make that magic happen. My goodness. So what is your mission with these events, with your MP Summit and everything that you're doing?
Just build a stronger community for us, for the Latinos, for the Latina women, empower each other, see each other for a lot more than what we are seeing ourselves as right now. I think right now I look around and I see a lot of my people simply surviving and not living, and I want them to do that. I want to be able to have that camaraderie and that community for us.
How are you seeing the change? So like, you are currently still building up the MP Summit, and you're getting people from all over.
So right now we have two. Well, one is a man, but he's helping us a lot. We have 4 organizers in North Carolina, in different parts of North Carolina. I have 2 in Georgia, and then we have some people that are supporting us in Philadelphia. And so, like I said, my goal was not just to focus to my immediate community. I want to focus on the East Coast, simply because I feel that we would benefit from that a lot more. I am very familiar with the East Coast in general. New York City, and then you got Miami, you got Washington, D.C., and then here we are kind of stuck in the middle, especially these smaller towns. And one of the organizers yesterday, Evalis, she's the photographer for the promoting the images that we have on our promotions, and she said, I feel like a chocolate chip in a raisin oatmeal cookie. And I was like, what? Because she lives in a small Georgia town and she's Puerto Rican, and it's just so different, right? And so yeah, we are reaching out to those little small towns, simply because we know that the numbers of Latinos are smaller there. And then when you add Latino creatives, that brings down the numbers even more. And so I figured, well, if we go ahead and we connect in one local venue that we can all kind of come in at least once a year, create that community, create that human connection, and be able to grow together.
I love
That's
that. I
my
love
goal.
that you're getting, because as anybody else, of course, we automatically think of big cities like LA and
Mhm.
Miami and New York, of course, of like, oh, there's
Mhm.
lots of Latinos there, of course, here and there.
Mhm.
But there's Latinos everywhere, and that
Yeah.
includes the little small towns and the suburbs
Mhm.
in the middle of anywhere. My 2 cents, actually, what I can definitely tell you is, I'm in the suburbs of a town in Massachusetts, and I was a teacher for a really long time before I did anything else, or while I was doing, they always believe around writing and creating my own pieces and whatnot. And in Spain, I was an English teacher, obviously. Well, wasn't not super obviously, but I taught English. And here, the local school actually has a bilingual program. So they teach Spanish from elementary school mainly. I mean, they have
Mhm.
like middle and high school as well, but not as much as elementary school. And what I'm surprised, this little small suburb in the middle of nowhere, what it feels like to me, especially coming from Barcelona,
Mhm.
um, that there are a lot of Americans, that they're here and they're present and they're making a difference, not only through the
Mhm.
schools, but stuff that they want to be doing. So I feel like I resonate with what you're doing as well in that kind of sense, because of the small towns and gathering. And
Mhm.
then on top of that, what you said, you add artists in the Latin American community and the number automatically drops down.
Yep.
This is what the whole movement is all about, as well as more Latinos in Hollywood. And that's not only in acting as actors,
Yeah.
but that's directors, that's creatives, that's photographers, that's video editors, that's
Right.
anything in general that's creative. More Latinos in Hollywood, or more Latinos just in general in that artistic world. And I feel like you're raising awareness, first of all. That's important for
Right.
people to feel that it's okay if you want to be a video editor or anything else of the sort, just in the
Mhm.
artist kind of world. It's okay if you're Latin, of course, by any means, that you are able to do it and come forward, and that to just do something that you're passionate about as well, like you were
Right.
saying
Well,
before.
and when it comes to artists, this is what I've noted, even with the call for art that we have right now. I feel that a lot of Latinos are used to being, or are used to their artwork being rejected because of the style of art. Okay. So you have two categories, right? You are either a Latino artist creating very much Latin pieces and you're just going to stand out. But when you stand out, you know that your options are very limited, or you conform to your surroundings. And I don't want to use the word whitewash, but how can I put that? That doesn't sound bad. Um, um, you conform to whatever your surroundings
Yeah,
may be.
exactly. You
So
get you it's like a camel line.
um,
You
yeah,
kind of,
so if you're in the mountains, because it's not necessarily, that's not the correct political correct word, but if you're in the mountains, like my friend, she's a woodworker, she's gonna create pieces that's going to appeal to that population. If you are in the coast, you're gonna create a lot more beach scenes and watercolors and all of this stuff. And the thing about it is, then we lose our Latino artists,
mhm.
right?
Yeah,
We're losing
exactly. Yeah,
them,
because we adapt to our surroundings. Essentially,
right?
we're,
And
as humans that we are, not only as Latinos, of course, I feel like as humans as we are. Things
right,
with
and
our
we do
community a
this
bit more.
right. We do this in order to make money.
Yeah.
But you see, I think with Latinos is a little different, because if you have, for example, African Americans, and they are African American artists, all of their artwork is surrounding the Black culture, Black history, right? That that kind of art is spot on. You can't
Yeah,
miss that.
yeah.
You know, it's you see it. It has some movement. That movement is already established. They have a following, and then here comes back to supporting each other. That community is going to support that artist, right? Now, when it comes to the Latino community, we are categorized, back to this real quick, to folk art. And folk art, if you look up the definition, it has to have a purpose, okay? Folk artwork could be used. So for example, textiles, handbags and stuff like that. All that stuff is folk because those people, our ancestors, created that piece not for art, but for purpose.
Mm-hmm.
It was just pretty. So now we look at it, it's like, oh my God, it's a woven piece. It's beautiful, but it has a purpose. Fine art is aesthetics, right? And so I feel that sometimes Latino artists, we do not look at ourselves as fine artists because we
Mm-hmm.
have this picture of what fine art is. It belongs in the gallery somewhere where you can't touch it. No, we are fine artists because we are creating something that provides an aesthetic feel. And so that's what I feel, what I've learned so far from this call of art is that we have to empower our visual artists to have that courage to own that title. You're a fine artist. You don't belong in the gallery only 30 days out of the year for Hispanic Heritage Month. You know, you should be celebrated all year round.
All
And
year
you don't
round.
have to create those pieces simply because that's what sells. Nobody would know that you're a Latino artist because you just created a beachy coastal painting, you know. And it's okay if you do, if that's what you like, absolutely. But it's
Obviously,
okay.
yes.
Yeah, it's okay for you to include your culture and your colors because our colors are a lot richer. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's something that I'm learning as I go, and as just trying to pull those artists out and see how we can go
You're
about it.
shining a spotlight on them, exactly, and that's what they need to
Yes.
be, because you're correct in everything you're saying. Obviously, you really are spot on with how we're portrayed and how we automatically push ourselves down, or not only push ourselves down basically, but also like just take ourselves out of the running, thinking
Yeah.
that that's
Yes.
not going to be what is wanted or needed.
Mm-hmm.
As what you said with the Black community, I do feel like they're a lot more united in different ways. And right now, I hope, and what I feel, and only because it's 2020, it's a whole vision of itself. What it is happening is like more and more Latinos are pushing together, pushing forward. And
Yes,
even people
absolutely.
like you who have maybe quote unquote nothing to do with Hollywood, which I feel like it's linked some way, somehow. But we're trying to say, like, even if you're just trying the small communities, or someone like me starting in this small community,
Mm-hmm.
little by little, that's going to be that powerful, that unity,
Yeah.
etc.
Yeah.
And that's pretty impressive. With so talking what you said about the summit, and you said you want to continue because it's just the first year and you want to continue some more.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you see yourself in the future, or with the summit, or with this whole community art vibe that you're pulling together?
Um, I well, it's not necessarily for myself. I think for the future, I envision a couple of more people like myself taking ownership of the event because the event is not necessary. It's not mine. You understand? I'm just kind of pushing
Exactly.
it along right now, but the event is not just for me and it's
It's
not mine.
ours.
And so, yeah, right, it's ours. And so I want people to take ownership. I said this, I mentioned this to someone earlier. You make a post about Mujer Poderosa because you believe in Mujer Poderosa, you own it. It's not, oh, well, Tania's doing it. No, look what we're doing.
Look,
You know,
yes, I
yeah,
love
I
it.
may be,
Love
you know,
it.
it's just, I might be the I guess, the loca, the crazy one that decided to go ahead and do it. But if you joined the movement, then I would appreciate if you go ahead and you own it, because if later on, 5 years down the line, I may not be able to run the event, I would like, of course, for someone to be able to step in, because the community is there, and
Yeah, it keeps
you
on
don't
going, it keeps
necessarily,
on thriving and growing.
yeah, you don't necessarily need me,
You can move
but
on to better things, bigger things. You're gonna go off to
exactly,
the West Coast, you know what I mean, or whatever.
yeah, whatever it may be. And so that's what I envision the event, um, at least a few years from now, is that it grows in size, it grows in strength, not necessarily for profit, um, and this is, I'll say this event is not a non-profit event, because I know some people have asked. It's not a non-for-profit, but it's not for profit either. It's more for itself. It pays for itself. It helps for, it's not going into anyone's pocket but the event itself.
But the
And so
event
the
itself,
the
there you
purpose
go.
of it is, yeah, and I have to say that because I know some people, they want to support because, oh, well, is it a nonprofit? Well, no, we're actually targeting a different market. We're not necessarily targeting the low income. We're targeting a little bit the people that are working and are doing, they want to open a business or whatever it may be. So we're just targeting those people that don't necessarily fit into this bracket and are forgotten in a way. And so that's the goal. The goal is to have a nice group that are willing to take ownership of an event like this and push it forward.
I love that statement, because coming from one movement to another, I feel the same way with Go to Fly. I feel the same way with Always Believer. That's why when I chose to start my project, my writings, yeah, they're
Mm-hmm.
mine at the beginning, but I never wrote like, oh, this is Ariadna, or Ariadna, my last name or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Because even though I'm the owner and the writer of these words, of course, the community is ours.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that you're right now on the podcast, on the blog, is like, oh, I'm part of the Go to Fly movement from the Always Believer. I'm a flyer
Right.
as well. It surrounds that everyone can actually do and participate. The moment that I want to start something on my own, then I'll have just my name, obviously. But for right now, it's like,
Right.
yes, like you said, I'm the crazy one, or I'm like, I'm just gonna go start and see what happens and just communicate people and just put them together, and then here we
Yeah.
are, and that's, I get that. I really got that sentiment, because that's something important for it to like linger, like not linger on, but live on. Better
Mm-hmm.
said.
Mm-hmm.
Had a question, but let me go back to the one I was telling you about earlier today. I told you we're gonna go back to the Bronx. We're back to
Oh,
the Bronx now. Something a little bit different.
the Bronx. All right.
Um, with the Bronx, this is actually a fun question,
Okay.
because the first thing that comes to mind when I think of the Bronx and think of Puerto Rico, obviously, Jennifer
What?
Lopez,
Oh, Jennifer Lopez.
of
Yeah.
course. And I just wanted to get your 2 cents on our Super Bowl of this year, the halftime show, on what you felt, on how you see it, how you portrayed it, as far as like the Latin community goes.
So, okay. So I didn't actually watch this whole Super Bowl because football does not interest me. But
That's
I
okay.
wake up.
Just
I wake up to all of this commotion, right? And I was actually very proud. But I wasn't just proud because here's J-Lo with her Puerto Rican flag, but I love Shakira. I've been a fan of Shakira since she had her straight black hair
straight
way
black
back in the
hair,
day.
and then when she had like red hair as well, and she was
Yeah,
like the little
yes,
rocker chick, and she was just like,
right,
oh yes,
right.
yes, yes.
And that's a Shakira I remember. And then of course a lot of people forgot about Demi Lovato that actually sang the
The
national
national
anthem.
anthem.
And so I'm here and I'm like, yeah, three Latinas. This is like awesome. I missed a little bit of the excitement as everyone else, only because everyone saw it as this big, like, oh, well, this is one of the biggest stages in the world. I'm from the Bronx, so I'm used to seeing J-Lo, and I'm used to her just, making waves. That's just, I'm used to it. What's the big deal? I didn't expect so many people to feel so negatively about it. And that made me more proud. Because those two women, I felt, represented us in the best way possible. They supported each other, and if you actually were following up before the Super Bowl, they were some of the videos that the ladies themselves were posting. They were pushing each other and supporting each other. And I love that, because at that moment, it wasn't about a specific culture or country. I don't really necessarily see J-Lo as J-Lo from the Bronx, even though that's what she is.
Is and says over and over again.
Is what she is. I see her as a Puerto Rican who's up there rubbing elbows with all the ones that are known. And so that itself gives me pride. It doesn't give me pride just because she's from the Bronx. It gives me pride because she's from Latina, whether or not she embraces it as much as other Puerto Ricans do. Because I know some people try to say, well, she's not Puerto Rican enough. I don't care. She's Puerto Rican. She was on stage with her big Puerto Rican flag. Please don't forget that she also had the United States flags with her, which that's a big statement of its own, okay? She had both the flags together. She claimed both the United States and Puerto Rico in the most positive way ever. So that's my statement on that.
Why, thank you very much, Tania.
They did it.
They did it. Yeah, exactly. Like, they did it. And yes, I was following up the days before, and every single picture was just united and unity. And every single picture before and after, like, you see the Insta stories and you see whatever they post on the wall, like their high five at the end, the high five of all high fives is just gorgeous. The way they hugged, the way that you're like, we did it together and we represented a community. For me, it was beyond. I mean, I'm neither Puerto Rican nor Colombian in this case, obviously. However, for me, I still feel equally as represented, as loved, as you're like, they can do it. And not only because she's from the Bronx, she's from Barranquilla, from look at that. And it's a powerful, like I was saying before, with platforms, like, take advantage of what platform you have, no matter how big or small.
Yeah, because she could have gotten up there and not done anything at all and just done her music and called it a day,
Exactly.
But she utilized it for a purpose. So I'll give her kudos for that.
Definitely. Both of them did. Shakira with all her roots, because she's beyond Latin as well, of course, as we all know. And the message, the flags, the cages, like everything about her, her daughter, and just did their thing. Love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, we're circling up to last few questions, sadly. Oh dear, I love this. I love interviews like this because it's so powerful and moving, and you're like, yes,
I can talk.
And you can talk with a purpose. You're not just rambling on. You're like, oh my God, you got so many interesting things to say. You're definitely going to come back on, I swear. So give us the dates of the summit, please, and where can we find you?
Okay, so the Mujer Poderosa Summit will take place on June 12th through the 14th in Wilmington, North Carolina, or more specific, Riceville Beach, North Carolina. And it will start on Friday evening at 6 p.m. with an art exhibition. Those tickets are actually up for sale already if you want to pre-purchase your tickets. And we are going to be featuring some Latina artists. It's about 15 Latina artists. Their artwork theme is Mujer Poderosa, of course, their interpretation of it. On Saturday, we will have two things going on. We will have a vendor expo featuring some Latinos vendors, as well as some workshops that focus on the business aspects of entrepreneurship. So branding, marketing, financing, all that stuff will be taking place. And then, of course, some bonding activities or networking activities for Saturday evening and Sunday morning. You can find all the information at www.mpsummit.com. I made it easier for everyone.
You did.
I made it easier because
mpsummit.com.
mpsummit.com. Hopefully you know how to spell summit. SUMMIT.
There you go.
I second guessed myself for a moment, but yes, all the information that is there, from the art call, the art guidelines, the vendors, how to become a sponsor if you want to join the movement. And if you are far away and can't participate and can't sponsor, you can make a donation. We do have that in play as well. You can receive a Poderosa shirt. You see it, they don't see it, but a Poder shirt with a donation of $25, and I'll be posting that further.
Yay! I'll definitely link you all down below, of course. Meanwhile, in any case scenario, we can find you specifically there, obviously. And through there, you're on Instagram. You also have an MP Summit Instagram handle as well.
Yes.
So that's definitely the main key right now for Tania Lopez. So the last two questions.
Okay.
What are 3 adjectives to describe you?
I don't remember seeing this in the damn thing. Hold up. 3 adjectives. Adjectives.
I asked every single one of my guests. I want
I
another
know.
answer.
I don't know why. I kind of whoop. 3 adjectives. Okay. I'll say hard-headed. I'm hard-headed. That's number 1. It could be a good thing and a bad thing. It gets me in trouble sometimes, but I'm hard-headed. I am I don't remember. I don't remember.
It's like, was it all right?
I am passionate.
You took the word out of my mouth. I was like, you're definitely passionate, darling.
Very passionate. I'm passionate about everything that I'm like, and believe it or not, I'm very sensitive. I'll say that. I'm very sensitive. For a lot of people see me and they're like, oh no, she is not. But I am very sensitive.
So don't judge a book by its cover. I'm hard. I'm strong. I'm still sensitive.
Yeah, I am. I'm sensitive. Most people don't see that. They look at me and they're like, oh, but you're so, and I'm like,
I get you. Yeah, they hear like, oh, but you've gone through so much. You must be like, yeah, but I'm still sensitive. That's what we do.
Yeah. I'll cry in the corner.
Exactly. I cry on a daily basis. It's not good, but it's good. It's venting. It's all good. And what are you grateful for, Tania?
I'm grateful for another day of life. And I think we have to make sure that we wake up early in the morning and think whatever it is that you believe in, the universe, the energy, whatever, and just think for another day of life so we can continue to do what we want to do.
There you go. There you have it. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you very much for making this conversation super interesting, super useful, and leaving a message loud and clear.
Thank you for having me and involving me in your movement.
Of course. You're definitely welcome anytime, and we're definitely going to keep having you on because it's lots of fun. And
pick the topic.
Exactly. Fun and really interesting perspective. So here we are, another Wednesday. Dear Flyers, Team Flyer of mine. Thank you very much for listening in. We have new episodes every single Wednesday. You can follow us on every social media you can think of, including Pinterest and Facebook and TikTok as well. We're always on Instagram. We have IGTVs as well going on there. And we're also on Patreon. So come support us there, as well as a membership group. So there's lots of good goodies happening on right now. And I'm just here to wish you a beautiful day. Keep on doing what you do. Leave a legacy. Leave a message. And thank you, Tania, once again for being here with us.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.